Hey everyone, and welcome to Ink Spotlights from Comix Wellspring. This is the series where we shine the spotlight on immensely talented creators who print with us. And today we're on the road to IC3 still, and we're joined by Joel William Thurman to talk about his book, his upcoming projects a little bit more. Dude, it's so good to see you coming out of Denver, Colorado over here. Thanks for hanging today. Tell us all about your project.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm the writer, the creator of a comic called Disinter. It means to dig up or unbury, so it's an archaeology themed horror story. And I have this our main villain, Kimaris, is sort of a Sumerian demon demigod with obvious Lovecraftian eldritch horror vibes to it. Third issue is coming out really soon on Kickstarter, but I've printed two already that have funded really well. And so I'm excited to keep this character's story going.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And do this, we were talking off camera right now, but I've seen your posts and this character pop up so much on my feed. And I love the design. I'm a huge Lovecraft fan of myself. And so whenever we get these tentacle things coming out of anything, I'm always super hyped. Where did your love for like Lovecraft and this type of, I guess, genre kind of develop, and what made you drive your series towards that?
Yeah, excellent question. And a really long-winded one. So I'm a history teacher by trade.
Oh, cool.
And so I've always been kind of fascinated with different ancient mythologies, and I have a sweet spot for Japan. And so my story takes place in Japan, but I actually bring in this Sumerian mythology. And it just so happens that there's a mountain and named Mount Mashu is in Sumeria and also in Japan. And so I have sort of this cross-cultural tie taking place, and bringing in a god of destruction and zombies is always a fun ride.
Oh, dude, that's so cool. And honestly, like, I love hearing just that first statement too, because I love when you get something from the real world and kind of merge it into your story at the same time. Like, obviously this is very, fantastical. And, I mean, who knows, like elder gods might be a thing. I wouldn't doubt it. But like, it's one of those things where like, now somebody could research this and be like, oh, this does make sense. Like this could be like an alternate world possibility where these type of events could actually take place. And that's always just a fun mystery, the what if type of approach to any sort of storytelling. And you're saying you're approaching your third issue on Kickstarter. One, when does that launch, but also how long are you hoping for the series to go on for? Do you have something set in mind for this?
I do. We should be launching next week, so really soon. I've got my cover art is going off to the letterer this week.
Oh,
And then once the covers are finished, then I'll put it in the Kickstarter and launch it. There's so many puzzle pieces that go into play with launching a product, but yeah, the story arc is written for 6 issues, and so this guy's story will end at 6. But being a sort of archaeology horror with some ancient mythologies in place, there's lots of rooms for spin-offs if the fan base grows quite a bit. And so we're excited for that. I have a wonderful artist team that is, bringing my crazy ideas to life. And they're super passionate and excited about this project. And they've all expressed interest in wanting to continue. So I hope we get to do that.
so how did your team come together? Because I know it's one of the hardest things, especially as a writer, trying to like, how do I get an artist to execute this? How do I bring it together? How did you find such a collaborative team that were up for this?
Yeah, I think like a lot of the Kickstarter groups now, we sort of formed during the pandemic when we had all sorts of time at home, and I lurked on a couple of Facebook groups that were connecting writers and comic book artists, and really sat for quite a while until I found an artist that captured the style that I was after. I had something very specific in mind with a very realistic approach to the drawing, and wanted to do almost picture identical images, to real world locations, like sort of, I do Japan, whereas like Spider-Man's in New York City. And so I had a really specific idea in mind of what I wanted this to look like. And when I found the artist post some things. Rafael Crestani from Brazil is his name. And the moment I saw his stuff, I was like, that's my guy. Reached out to him. We had lots of conversations, and and then it spiraled from there. So
I love seeing those relationships like build up and then be consistent as well. I've seen so many, especially as a writer, myself trying to find an artist that was like, okay, I found you and you're down for this, but how far are we going to go through it? I'm sure you've been in that same rut where you're just like, I've tried three different artists and it looked good. And then all of a sudden all the communication was lost or something weird
Mhm.
happened. I got concept work and then it just stopped. But like once you find that group that is just level headed with you and realizes this is what we got to do to make comics, it is just like a gift and you just take hold of that and you're like, I need to execute these insane ideas and thoughts and really make this something. And I think you are, because it looks from like your fan base, from what you're posting, how busy you are, that's what you want as an indie creator, full front. And so what events you got going on this year? We have IC3 coming up. Do you have anything else you have planned going on?
Yeah, I'll be at IC3 in March. I've got OCon in Omaha, Nebraska, Council Bluffs, Iowa
Oh, cool.
in July. I should be back at Denver Fan Expo in July. I'm just waiting for that confirmation. They let me in last year, as with only one issue as publishing. So I'm assuming with three they'll let me in, possibly four at that time. And Comic Palooza in Houston, I've been
Ooh.
invited to as well. So I have at least three conventions coming up.
Cool. I've heard a lot of good stuff about that Houston show. I've heard that's like another one to keep an eye on that's doing pretty well from the sounds of it.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I went down last year just to kind of scout out. Last year was funny. I released this first issue in January of last year on Kickstarter, and so we're approaching that 1 year mark as as a full fledged comic company, I guess, or
Yeah.
group. Um, and so it'll be fun to go back to these locations now instead of as a fan, as sort of a creator myself. And so I'm super excited.
Oh, I completely resonate with that, dude. Completely. That was me last year at IC3. I just had the punk anthology, which you could kind of see behind me right here if I move my head right. And now we have like a whole arsenal of new, Apollo City Comics products, and we just were launching like 3 books this year too. During right before the show, so it's gonna be weird going to the table being like, I have a whole like I'm here tabling, and I wasn't tabling last year, and I just had 1 book, and now I have like an array of things, and it's really like it trips you out on the progress. And I think that's such a good thing to do year after year, is kind of reflect of where you stood a year ago and seeing where you are now, because it's hard to see the progression sometimes when you're doing the work day in and day out. You kind of lose that focus, I feel sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's amazing where I've come and where my team has come in the last year. Um, the way we've melded as a group and different, we've changed sort of the direction the story's going through our collaboration, which has been phenomenal. And I've even started working with another art team as well on another project. So
Ooh.
I'm having so much fun writing stories and seeing it come to life that I'm like, oh, I've got so many more ideas. So I'm super excited about my other project coming out too.
That's exciting. Can you spill anything about that right now, or is that kind of still under development where you're keeping it a little under wraps?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I just released on my Facebook page a couple of teaser images just the other day.
Oh,
So it's called Plague, and it is an alien invasion story, sort of a War of the Worlds with a twist. And we're really excited about the sort of unique alien villain we've created for this. And kind of similar to my my Cthulhu-esque villain here. It's tied into recognizable lore, but also very very unique too.
oh, dude, that's sick. I can't wait to check these out because they sound like right up my alley. All these books, that's so hype. Super cool. And so you're saying you're working on another project. This is your essentially your second project you're doing, and you have some spin-offs in mind. So and you're a history teacher. Like, where does comics fit into all of that? Where did the idea to start making comics? You mentioned COVID was like a period where you really got to sit down and do it. What did it take for you to actually sit down and do it? And where did your love for comics come from in general?
Um, Yeah, I've always kind of been a writer ever since I was young. I had some wonderful teachers that inspired and fostered creative writing in class. And so, I mean, actually, the main character of this book, I've been writing short stories of him since I was in eighth grade,
Oh, that's rad.
um, which is crazy to think. But yeah, I decided during the pandemic I wanted to see if I could make this, make a go of this, and was able to get a team together. And right now we're doing pretty good. Um, and and yeah, as a history teacher, it's comics are fun. I grew up, with Kevin Conroy and Batman the Animated Series, and then in high school was playing the Arkham games with Batman, and so I have a huge love for DC Comics. And unfortunately, nobody's writing the kind of books that I'm really interested in right now. Horror's starting to make a comeback.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of I'm seeing, different, Distillery is making horror books. EC Comics now is back
Yeah.
through, I think, Oni Press. So
Yeah.
horror's making a comeback. And even like the reboots of the Ghostbusters franchise, also dealing with Sumerian mythology a little bit.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just, tapping into that sort of environment where I want to write the stories I want to read, and yeah, and hope other people are in the same boat.
No, yeah, 100%. I think that's all of our dilemma is that, we're writing comics for our love of it, but we want to find the book that would really capture us. Like I feel like we're all writing the book that if we saw that in the stands, that would draw us in. And that's like the biggest thing to keep in mind when you're writing stuff, for yourself, but also for your audience in that sense. You're writing towards something that's missing in the big spectrum that is comic books. And finding that
Mhm.
voice and delivering it, you're giving something to someone that who knows, your book might inspire them and kick off a series of events where 5 years later they didn't realize like, oh, I'm making comics now. And it's really because I saw this book and it just clicked with me and it made sense for me to
Mhm.
do it. So, uncovering those stories and finding the time to actually execute them, it's such a dilemma, but I'm so excited for like your direction of where you're going, what's happening as you're building, you're on your third issue, another series is opening up, spin-offs in the mind. That's exciting. That just shows you have a lot of work to like get towards. And that's never a bad thing as a creator.
Yeah, no, not a bad thing at all.
Well, I love it, dude. I can't wait to see you at IC3. This is going to be a super exciting year for you. Please tag us in your Kickstarter post and we'll make sure to share it so people are aware of this third issue. Can people pick up issues anywhere else besides conventions right now?
Yeah, I'm working on getting a store running.
Oh,
Harder, harder than it looks.
yeah.
It'll be worldofdissenter.com. But also, if you reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, I've got copies in hand, and I'm happy to, to get that, payment and send it. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Awesome. And do you have any other shout outs or announcements you want to make right before we sign off today?
Ooh, wow. I mean, I mentioned my creative team, Cristani and Navarro. They're fantastic. All the cover artists that I'm working with as well. This doesn't work without them. And of course, fans that I've met at conventions and fans that reach out to me online. The conversations that we have, are wonderful. And I love the ideas that they bring to the conversation, critiques and joy that they share about reading it. So, I love that I'm able to interact with people who enjoy the story.
Love it, dude. Honestly, we wouldn't be anything without them supporting our work and keeping us through this, to be honest. So good. I love hearing all this. I'm excited to see you. I can't wait to see this book in person. I've seen it so much online. I need to get a copy. So I'll definitely be getting issue one when I see you at IC3 coming up soon.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll save back copies for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for stepping in the spotlight, Joel. It was great talking to you today.
Thank you. Good to see you.